I stared at my phone screen for what felt like an eternity, though the timestamp showed only 30 seconds had passed since her message arrived. My thumb hovered over the keyboard as a cold, heavy feeling settled in my chest. "I'll be staying at Craig's tonight. Don't wait up." Craig, our neighbor 2 blocks over, the real estate developer with the Tesla and the too perfect smile, the guy who'd been coming to our neighborhood cookouts for years, always bringing expensive wine and complimenting my wife's dress just a second too long. 10 years of marriage distilled into 11 dismissive words. I took a deep breath and typed my response. "Okay, just that, nothing else." Then I switched off my phone, placed it face down on my desk, and returned to the architectural plans I'd been working on before the message arrived. The lines blurred before my eyes. The measurements no longer made sense. After 10 minutes of staring at the same corner of the blueprint, I pushed back from my desk. "My name is Evan Mitchell. I'm a 38-year-old architect with my own successful firm in Chicago. I design spaces where people build their lives, their dreams, their futures." Ironic that I couldn't see the collapse of my own home until the roof was already caving in. I stood up and walked to the window of my home office. Outside, the Chicago skyline glittered against the darkening sky. Buildings I'd helped design stood among them. Structures built to last decades, centuries even. Unlike my marriage, the signs had been there for months. Lauren's work dinners that ran later and later. The new clothes. The passcode on her phone changed for the first time in years. The scent of unfamiliar cologne when she came home. I wasn't blind. I was choosing not to see. What kind of man ignores these signs? A weak one, my father would say. The kind who's afraid to face reality. Well, not anymore. I walked to our bedroom, a spacious master suite with windows overlooking Lake Michigan, furnished with Lauren's expensive taste. Her closet door stood slightly ajar. I pulled it open and stared at the rows of designer clothes, shoes worth more than what some of my employees made in a month. She'd always had expensive taste, my Lauren. I'd never minded before. Her ambition was part of what attracted me to her. But now I wondered how much of what I'd provided was ever enough. In her dresser, I found the jewelry box I'd given her for our 5th anniversary. Inside were the pieces I'd bought her over the years. The diamond earrings for her 30th birthday, the sapphire pendant that matched her eyes, the Cartier watch for our last anniversary. But nestled among them were new additions I didn't recognize. A gold bracelet with an engraved message I couldn't quite make out. A pair of emerald earrings I certainly hadn't purchased. Gifts from Craig. The thought made my stomach turn. I closed the box and returned it exactly as I'd found it. No emotional outbursts, no throwing things against walls. That wasn't me, never had been. My father, a steelworker who'd built himself up from nothing, had taught me one valuable lesson. When you're hit, you don't cry. You plan your next move. So that's exactly what I did. I went to the kitchen, poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon, Blanton's the good stuff, and sat at our marble island. Lauren had insisted on the renovation last year, $20,000 for countertops. At the time, I joked that each meal we ate on it cost a little more. She hadn't laughed. As I sipped my drink, I pulled out my laptop and opened our shared accounts. First, the credit cards. 4 of them, all in both our names. I checked recent transactions. Sure enough, there it was. A charge from 2 nights ago at the Peninsula Hotel. Room service for 2, champagne. A charge from the hotel spa the next morning. My hands didn't shake as I noted everything down. They remained steady as I logged into our investment accounts, our savings, our checking. I took screenshots of everything, noting balances, transaction histories, and ownership details. Knowledge is power, and I needed every advantage. By midnight, I had contacted a lawyer, Michael Dawson, an old college friend who specialized in divorces among Chicago's elite. I sent him an email with the evidence I'd gathered, asking for an urgent meeting tomorrow. Only then did I allow myself to feel something. Not the rage or devastation you might expect, but a cold, crystalline clarity. The path forward was suddenly obvious, a straight line through the wreckage. I slept in the guest bedroom that night, not because I couldn't bear our bed without her, but because I was already practicing for the separation, the beginning of my new life. Morning arrived with harsh October light streaming through blinds I'd forgotten to close. For a blissful moment, I didn't remember. Then my phone buzzed with a text notification, and it all came flooding back. It wasn't Lauren. It was Michael confirming our meeting at 10 a.m. I showered, dressed in one of my better suits, a dark gray Tom Ford that Lauren had always said made me look distinguished, and headed downtown. Michael's office occupied the 38th floor of a gleaming skyscraper on Wacker Drive, one I'd worked on early in my career. The receptionist, a young woman with a professional smile, led me straight to his corner office. Evan. Michael stood extending his hand. He looked exactly as he had in college, just with more expensive clothes and a few strands of gray in his dark hair. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances. So do I said, taking the offered seat across from his imposing desk. I reviewed everything you sent last night, Michael said, opening a leather portfolio. And I have to say, you've done half my job already. Most clients come in emotional, unprepared. You've given me a solid foundation to work with. I'm an architect, I said with a humorless smile. Foundations are my specialty. Indeed, Michael leaned forward. Now, Illinois is an equitable distribution state, which means marital property is divided fairly, but not necessarily equally. Given what you've shown me about your contributions versus Lauren's, we have a strong case for a division that favors you. What do I do now? I asked, practically speaking. Michael outlined the steps. Document everything. Secure assets without hiding them. Gather evidence of infidelity if possible. Infidelity doesn't impact property division much in Illinois, he explained, but it can affect negotiations. People who feel guilty or exposed are often more willing to settle quickly and favorably. I want this done efficiently, I said. I don't want drama or a protracted battle. Understanding what Lauren wants will help, Michael said. Is it just Craig, or is it your money too? The question hit me like a physical blow. I hadn't considered that Lauren might be planning something similar, securing her future at my expense. I don't know, I admitted, but I intend to find out. Michael recommended a private investigator he trusted, Jason Brooks, a former Chicago PD detective who specialized in domestic cases. He placed the call while I was still in his office, and we set up a meeting for later that afternoon. One more thing, Michael said as I was leaving. Don't confront her yet. Information is your advantage right now. The moment she knows you know, everything changes. I nodded, thanked him, and left, stepping back into the crisp autumn air of downtown Chicago. Around me, people hurried along the sidewalks, consumed by their own lives, their own dramas. How many of them were also hiding secrets? How many marriages were crumbling behind closed doors while smiling faces maintained the illusion? I checked my phone. No messages from Lauren, not even a morning check-in or an excuse about why she hadn't come home. The silence was more telling than any lie she could have crafted. I sent her a casual text. Busy day at the office. Probably working late. You. The response came almost immediately. Client meetings all day. Dinner with the team tonight. More lies, at least she was consistent. I put my phone away and hailed a cab to the address Jason Brooks had given me. The private investigator worked out of a nondescript office building in Lincoln Park. No flashy signs, no private eye door decal, like in the movies. Just a simple nameplate, Brooks Investigations. Professional, discreet. Jason Brooks himself was nothing like the rumpled, hard-drinking detective of film noir. He was in his early 50s, fit, with close-cropped, salt-and-pepper hair, and the alert eyes of someone who noticed everything. He wore a button-down shirt and slacks that suggested comfort rather than impression. Mr. Mitchell, he said, shaking my hand firmly, please have a seat. His office was tidy and modern. A desk, 2 comfortable chairs, a filing cabinet, and a wall of credentials and photographs. One showed him in police uniform. Another showed him shaking hands with the mayor. I explained my situation as concisely as I could. Brooks took notes on a legal pad, asking occasional questions, but mostly just listening. Michael tells me you're looking for confirmation of an affair, potentially financial misconduct as well, he asked when I'd finished. Yes, I said. I need to know what I'm dealing with. Who Craig is to her, whether there's been any movement of assets I'm not aware of. Brooks nodded. Standard surveillance package covers 3 days of observation, photographic evidence, and a detailed report. I can also do background on this Craig. Craig Doyle, I supplied. Real estate developer. Owns Doyle Properties. Brooks wrote the name down. I'll find out if there's anything in his background or finances that raises flags. Business entanglements, previous similar situations. How quickly can you start? Today, Brooks said. I'll need a photo of your wife, her usual schedule, vehicle information, and a retainer. I provided everything he asked for, including a recent photo of Lauren from my phone. Looking at her smiling face, her blonde hair perfectly styled, blue eyes bright, the smile that had once seemed so genuine, sent an unexpected pang through me. One more thing, Brooks said as he walked me to the door. This is probably not the first time you've thought something was wrong. Trust that instinct. In my experience, it's rarely wrong. I nodded, unable to speak past the sudden tightness in my throat. He was right. There had been dozens of small moments over the past few months. Lauren pulling away when I touched her. Conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. The growing distance in our bed. I'd attributed it all to stress, to her demanding job and public relations, to the normal ebb and flow of a long marriage. What a fool I'd been. The next 3 days passed in a strange, suspended state. I went to work, attended meetings, reviewed designs, all while feeling as though I was watching myself from a distance. I avoided going home when I thought Lauren might be there, using work as an excuse to stay late at the office. She didn't seem to notice or care. Our text exchanges were brief, logistical, ships passing in the night. On Friday afternoon, Brooks called. I have some preliminary findings. Can you come by the office? 30 minutes later, I was sitting across from him as he laid out a folder of photographs and a typed report. Your wife has been meeting Craig Doyle regularly for at least the past week, Brooks began. They meet at his penthouse in the River North area. She typically arrives around 7 p.m. and leaves the following morning between 7 and 9 a.m. He slid several photos across the desk. Lauren entering a luxury high-rise building. Lauren and Craig walking into a restaurant, his hand on the small of her back. The two of them on a terrace, drinking wine, laughing at something I couldn't hear. The last photo made my jaw clench. Lauren kissing Craig, her body pressed against his, outside his building. There's more, Brooks said, his voice professional, detached. I followed the financial angle as well. Mr. Doyle has made several large cash withdrawals over the past 3 months. Meanwhile, your wife has opened a personal account at First Meridian Bank, separate from your joint accounts. He showed me bank documents, account statements. Lauren had deposited nearly $50,000 into this new account. Money I knew we didn't have just lying around. Where did she get this? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. That's the concerning part, Brooks said. I traced it to withdrawals from your home equity line of credit. Small enough amounts to not trigger automatic notifications, but they add up. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Not only was Lauren cheating, but she was stealing from us, from me, to fund whatever future she was planning. There's one more thing, Brooks said, pulling out another document. Craig Doyle is looking to expand his business internationally. He's been making trips to London, Paris, and Singapore over the past 6 months, and your wife has been researching visas, long-term ones. The implication was clear. This wasn't just an affair. It was an exit strategy. A memory surfaced suddenly, sharp and painful. Last Christmas, Lauren opening the jewelry box containing the Cartier watch. Her smile, the kiss she'd given me, her whispered, "It's perfect." 2 weeks later, she'd been working late on our anniversary. Had she been with him even then? Had every moment of the past year been a lie? I must have shown something on my face because Brooks paused, his expression softening slightly. Do you need a minute, Mr. Mitchell? I shook my head, swallowing hard. No, please continue. He nodded, respecting my need to maintain composure. I've also discovered something interesting about Mr. Doyle's business practices. He's currently under scrutiny from several investors regarding questionable property deals. Nothing criminal, yet, but enough red flags that I'd be concerned about anyone closely associated with him. She doesn't know, I said, the realization hitting me. Lauren thinks she's latched onto a rising star, but she's actually tied herself to a potential disaster. It appears that way, Brooks agreed, which could work to your advantage in negotiations. What do you want to do with this information, Mr. Mitchell? Brooks asked after giving me a moment to process. What did I want to do? Part of me wanted to confront Lauren immediately, to show her I knew everything, to see her face when her carefully constructed plans collapsed around her. Another part wanted to disappear, to withdraw all our money and vanish, let her wonder what had happened. But neither approach would give me what I truly wanted, control over what happened next. I need time to think, I said, gathering the documents, to consult with my lawyer. Brooks nodded. I'll continue monitoring for another day, as we agreed. If anything significant changes, I'll contact you immediately. I left his office with the folder clutched in my hand, evidence of my collapsing life neatly organized and labeled. The Chicago afternoon surrounded me with noise and movement, honking cars, chattering pedestrians, the rumble of the L train overhead. None of it seemed real. I found myself walking aimlessly, the folder tucked inside my jacket. Eventually, I ended up at the Chicago River, staring at the water flowing past. Buildings rose around me, monuments to permanence in a city that had burned to the ground and rebuilt itself. Maybe there was a lesson there. My phone buzzed. Lauren. Working late again. Don't wait up. The same lie, different day. I didn't bother responding. Instead, I called Michael. I have everything I need, I told him. How quickly can we move forward? The weekend arrived with a strange, tense silence. Lauren came home late Friday night, slipping into bed beside me without a word. I pretended to be asleep, keeping my breathing even as she settled in, smelling of unfamiliar soap and faint traces of Craig's cologne. Saturday morning, I was up early. I made coffee, read the news on my tablet, and waited. Lauren emerged around 9, wrapped in her silk robe, looking slightly surprised to find me there. Morning, she said, pouring herself coffee. I thought you'd be at the office. Taking a day off, I replied, watching her over the rim of my mug. Thought we could spend some time together. It's been a while. A flicker of something, panic, guilt, crossed her face before she smoothed it away with a practiced smile. That sounds nice, but I promised Sarah I'd help her shop for a dress today. Her sister's wedding is coming up. Sarah, her friend from college who lived in Milwaukee now, another lie. Maybe dinner then, I suggested. We could try that new place on Michigan Avenue, the one you've been wanting to go to. Lauren hesitated, clearly trying to formulate an excuse. Let me check with Sarah. We might be out late. No problem, I said easily. Just let me know. She nodded, relief evident in her shoulders as she retreated to the bathroom. I heard the shower start and allowed myself a grim smile. Everything was proceeding according to plan. While Lauren was getting ready, I went to my office and initiated the first phase of what Michael had outlined. I logged into our joint accounts and transferred half of all funds to new accounts in my name only. Not everything. That would be considered hiding assets, but enough to ensure Lauren couldn't drain them before legal proceedings began. Next, I changed the passwords on our investment accounts and placed security freezes on our joint credit cards. Again, I didn't close them or remove her, just made it so any new charges would require verification. Finally, I contacted our home equity line of credit provider and reported suspicious activity. They immediately froze the account pending investigation. By the time Lauren emerged, dressed impeccably in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater, her blonde hair blown out perfectly, I was back in the living room, seemingly engrossed in a book. I'll probably be back late, she said, grabbing her purse, a new Chanel I didn't recognize. Don't wait up. Have fun with Sarah, I said pleasantly. Tell her I said hello. Lauren paused momentarily, perhaps catching something in my tone, but then nodded and left. I watched from the window as she got into her Mercedes and drove away, not north toward the highway to Milwaukee, but south toward River North, toward Craig. Once she was gone, I moved quickly. I'd rented a storage unit 2 days earlier. Today, I would fill it with everything that truly mattered to me. Family photographs, my grandfather's watch, important documents, irreplaceable items I couldn't bear to lose in the coming storm. I worked methodically through the afternoon, selecting what to take, what to leave. Each object carried memories, some now tainted by the knowledge of Lauren's betrayal. The framed photo from our honeymoon in Greece, the first blueprint I'd ever drawn, which she'd had professionally framed for my 30th birthday. The rare first edition Hemingway she'd given me one Christmas. Had she loved me then? Had any of it been real? Questions without answers. I packed them away with everything else. My phone rang, startling me from my thoughts. The caller ID showed Jason Brooks. "Mr. Mitchell," he said when I answered, "thought you'd want to know. Your wife and Doyle just arrived at the Drake for lunch. They're meeting with a couple I've identified as Jonathan and Melissa Richardson. The names meant nothing to me. Who are they?" Kane. Jonathan Richardson is on the board of First Chicago Trust. They control significant international investments, particularly in Asia, given what we discussed about Doyle's expansion plans. "She's helping him network," I finished, using her PR connections. "It appears so," Brooks confirmed. "I'll keep you updated." After hanging up, I resumed packing, but my mind kept returning to the new information. Lauren wasn't just sleeping with Craig. She was actively helping him advance his business interests. How long had this been going on? How many of her client dinners had actually been opportunities to promote Craig's ventures? The betrayal felt deeper somehow, more calculated. This wasn't just about physical desire or emotional connection. This was a partnership, a shared future they were building. On the ruins of our marriage. By evening, the storage unit contained the skeleton of my life, the bare essentials from which I could rebuild once this was all over. I returned to an emptier house that still looked largely the same. Lauren wouldn't notice the subtle gaps, the missing items. She hadn't truly seen anything about our home in months. I ordered takeout from our favorite Thai place, ate alone at the kitchen island, and waited. My phone remained silent. No message from Lauren about coming home. No fabricated updates about her day with Sarah. Around midnight, as I was preparing for bed, my phone finally buzzed. "Staying at Sarah's tonight. Too much wine to drive. See you tomorrow." "See?" I stared at the message, a strange calm settling over me. Tomorrow then. Tomorrow everything would change. Sunday dawned bright and clear, one of those perfect autumn days Chicago occasionally offers before winter arrives. I rose early, went for a run along the lakefront, showered and made myself breakfast. Normal Sunday activities for what would be the least normal day of my life. I knew Lauren's patterns well enough to predict her movements. She would return mid-morning, claiming exhaustion from her girls' weekend, and retreat to our bedroom to rest, which really meant checking in with Craig without me hovering nearby. At 10:23 a.m., right on schedule, I heard her key in the lock. I was sitting at the kitchen island, drinking coffee, a portfolio of documents spread before me. "Morning," she called, dropping her purse on the entry table. She looked immaculate as always, not a hair out of place, designer sunglasses perched on her head. Only someone who knew her well would notice the slight puffiness beneath her eyes, concealed with expensive makeup. "What a night. Sarah's friends are wild." I didn't respond, just watched as she moved through the kitchen, pouring herself coffee. "You're quiet," she said, finally looking at me properly. Her eyes flickered to the documents on the counter. "Work stuff on a Sunday. You're such a workaholic." "Not work," I said calmly. "Divorce papers." The coffee mug froze halfway to her lips. "What?" "Divorce papers," I repeated, sliding them toward her. "Already filed on Friday. You've been served." "Sherry." Lauren set down her mug with a too careful movement. "Evan, what are you talking about? Is this some kind of joke?" "About as funny as you sleeping with Craig Doyle," I said, my voice level. "About as amusing as you stealing from our home equity line to fund your escape plan." All color drained from her face. I cut her off by placing the photos on the counter. Lauren and Craig entering his building. Lauren and Craig at dinner. Lauren kissing Craig with a passion I hadn't seen directed at me in years. "Don't insult me by lying," I said. "Not anymore." She stared at the photos, her perfectly manicured hand trembling slightly as she reached for them. "You had me followed. You spied on me." The attempt to flip the narrative, to make me the villain, might have worked once. Not today. "Yes," I said simply. "Just like you lied to me, stole from me, and planned to leave me. We've all done things we're not proud of." Lauren's shock was transforming into calculation. I could almost see her mind working, evaluating options, formulating a defense. "Evan," she said, her voice softening into the tone she used when she wanted something. "We can talk about this. Whatever you think is happening, has happened," I corrected. "And no, we can't talk about it. Not in any way that matters. You made your choice when you decided that vows, honesty, and basic human decency didn't apply to you." That's not fair, she said, a flash of genuine anger breaking through her composed exterior. You have no idea what I've been going through, how lonely I've been. You're never here, always at the office. Save it for someone who doesn't know about the $50,000, I interrupted, or the visa applications. That stopped her cold. How did you know that you were planning to leave the country with Craig, that you've been systematically preparing for months? I'm not an idiot, Lauren. I'm just sorry it took me so long to see what was right in front of me. Lauren's facade cracked completely then. Her shoulders sagged, and for the first time, she looked her age. 37, not the perpetual 30 she'd been maintaining through expensive skincare and subtle cosmetic work. What do you want? She asked finally. To punish me, to make me suffer. I want a divorce, I said simply. I want it to be quick, fair, and final. I want you out of this house by the end of the week, and I want you to sign these papers acknowledging that you took money from our home equity without my knowledge or consent. I pushed another document toward her. Michael had prepared it, a statement that would significantly strengthen my position in the divorce proceedings. And if I don't, a hint of defiance returned to her voice. Then we do this the hard way, I said. I have enough evidence of financial misconduct to make this very uncomfortable for you. For Craig, too. I wonder how his investors would feel about his judgment if they knew he was involved with a woman who stole from her husband. The threat hung in the air between us. Lauren stared at me, searching for any sign of weakness, any opening she could exploit. Finding none, she reached for the papers. I need to read these first, she said, and consult with my own lawyer. Of course, I agreed. You have 48 hours. After that, my offer changes. Lauren gathered the documents with shaking hands. You've changed, Evan. I never thought you could be so cold. I met her gaze directly. You have no idea who I am anymore, Lauren. That's part of the problem. She flinched as if I'd struck her, then turned and walked stiffly toward our bedroom. I heard the door close, then the muffled sound of her voice, calling Craig, no doubt, to report this unexpected development in their plans. I remained at the kitchen island, an odd sense of peace washing over me. The confrontation I'd been dreading was over. The next phase had begun. Whatever happened now, I would face it on my terms, not hers. The following days unfolded with the precision of a well-designed blueprint. Lauren moved out on Wednesday, taking only her personal belongings. I'd made it clear that anything of significant value would need to be negotiated through our lawyers. Another stipulation Michael had recommended to prevent her from stripping the house. She'd signed the financial misconduct statement, her signature sharp and angry on the page. Craig had convinced her, apparently, that fighting would only make things worse. He was right about that, at least. The divorce proceedings moved forward with surprising speed. Lauren didn't contest anything, eager to be done and move on to her new life. By Thanksgiving, just over a month after that fateful text message, we had a settlement agreement. She would keep her car, her personal property, and a cash payment that was far less than she would have received had she not been caught stealing. I kept the house, my business, and most of our investments. It was as close to a clean break as possible in such situations. Throughout it all, I maintained my composure. At work, I threw myself into new projects, impressing clients with my focus and innovative designs. I started exercising more, lost the 10 pounds that had crept on during the last year of my marriage, and reconnected with friends I'd neglected. On the surface, I was handling everything remarkably well. Inside was a different story. The nights were the worst. Alone in the house that still held echoes of Lauren, I would find myself staring at the ceiling, replaying our years together, searching for the moment when it all started to go wrong. Was it something I'd done? Something I'd failed to notice? Had she ever truly loved me? Or had I been a stepping stone all along? Memories haunted me. Our first date at a hole-in-the-wall Italian restaurant where we'd shared a bottle of cheap Chianti and talked until the owner kicked us out at closing. The night I'd proposed on the Navy Pier Ferris wheel, the ring box nearly falling from my nervous fingers. Our wedding day, Lauren radiant in white, promising forever with tears in her eyes. Had she meant it then? Or was I always just a convenient rung on her ladder to the life she really wanted? Sleep became elusive. Bourbon became a too frequent companion. Jason Brooks called occasionally to check in, An unexpected kindness from the professional I'd hired simply to gather evidence. During one such call, as December began painting Chicago white with the first snows, he mentioned something that caught my attention. Thought you might want to know. Doyle's company is hosting its annual holiday gala next weekend. Big affair at the Four Seasons. Donors, investors, city officials all attending. Why would I care about that? I asked, though I already knew. Just information, Brooks said casually. What you do with it is your business. After we hung up, I sat in my darkened living room, nursing a drink, considering possibilities. Lauren would certainly be there, on Craig's arm, playing the role of the sophisticated new girlfriend. They would be celebrating, thinking they'd gotten away with minimal consequences. The thought turned my stomach. I reached for my phone and called Michael. I need a favor, I said when he answered. Something that might not be strictly legal. There was a pause. I'm going to pretend you didn't say that last part. What do you need, Evan? Information on Craig Doyle's business practices, the kind that isn't public knowledge. I have contacts who might know things, Michael said carefully, but why stir this up now? You got a good settlement. It's over. Not for me, or I said. Not until they understand what they've done. Another pause, longer this time. This isn't like you, Evan. Revenge isn't your style. People change, I said, staring into my glass. Sometimes overnight. Michael sighed. Give me a few days. But Evan, think carefully about what you really want here. Revenge feels good in the moment, but it doesn't heal anything. I don't want to heal, I said truthfully. I want justice. Michael was true to his word. 3 days later, a thick envelope arrived at my office by courier. Inside was a dossier on Craig Doyle's business operations, the kind of information that never appears in annual reports or press releases. Questionable land acquisitions in developing neighborhoods, shell companies hiding the true ownership of properties, possible bribes to city inspectors, and most damning of all, evidence that he'd been using insider information, likely obtained through Lauren's PR connections, to make investment decisions. Nothing overtly criminal, perhaps, but enough to make investors nervous. Enough to damage his reputation in Chicago's close-knit business community. Enough to cause his carefully constructed empire to wobble on its foundation. I read through everything twice, then called Brooks. I need one more job, I told him. Something discreet but very public. An interesting combination, he replied. What do you have in mind? I explained my plan. Brooks listened without interruption. Can be arranged, he said when I finished, but it'll cost you. Money isn't an issue, I said. Results are. 2 days later, I received an invitation to Craig Doyle Properties' annual holiday gala at the Four Seasons. Brooks had connections everywhere, apparently, including among the event staff who handled the guest list. Now I just needed to prepare my gift for the happy couple. The Four Seasons ballroom glittered with holiday decorations, the city's elite dressed in their finest, mingling over champagne and hors d'oeuvres. I adjusted the cuffs of my tuxedo, custom Tom Ford, Lauren's favorite, and accepted a glass from a passing server. I'd secured an invitation through a client who served on the board of a charity Craig's company supported. A generous donation ensured my place at a table near the front, though not close enough to be immediately noticed by the hosts. For the first hour, I simply observed. The networking, the laughter, the practiced smiles of people with secrets to hide. Chicago's power players all in one room, congratulating themselves on another successful year. Craig arrived fashionably late, to the applause of his sycophants, and on his arm, radiant in a red gown that I recognized, I'd bought it for her last Christmas, was Lauren. She glowed with the satisfaction of someone who believed they'd won. They made their way through the crowd, accepting congratulations and well wishes. Craig played the successful businessman, Lauren the adoring partner, the perfect power couple. I remained in the periphery, watching, waiting. The moment came during Craig's speech. He stood at the podium, thanking investors and partners, outlining ambitious plans for the coming year. International expansion, new luxury developments in emerging markets, unprecedented growth. And none of this would be possible without the support of my incredible partner, both in business and in life, he said, gesturing to Lauren, who showed me that sometimes the best opportunities come when you least expect them. The crowd applauded, Lauren beamed, and I nodded to the man I'd positioned near the audiovisual control booth. The massive screen behind Craig, which had been displaying his company logo, suddenly switched to a new image. Lauren entering the Peninsula Hotel with Craig, date and timestamp clearly visible. Then financial documents. The unauthorized withdrawals from my home equity line, highlighted in angry red. Finally, email exchanges between Lauren and Craig, discussing their plans, their future, all obtained legally through discovery in our divorce proceedings. The room fell silent. Craig turned, saw the display, and froze mid-sentence. Lauren's smile disappeared as if it had been wiped away. I stood then, glass raised in a mock toast. To new opportunities, I called clearly across the hushed room, and to the true character of Craig Doyle and Lauren Mitchell, revealed for all to see. Chaos erupted. Craig lunged toward the AV booth, shouting for someone to shut it down. Lauren sat motionless, her face a mask of horror as her carefully constructed new narrative collapsed around her. Guests murmured, phones appeared, capturing the moment that would dominate Chicago business gossip for months to come. Security approached me, but I was already moving toward the exit, my work done. As I passed Lauren's table, our eyes met briefly. The hatred in hers was matched only by the cold satisfaction in mine. "Enjoy your new life," I said softly, for her ears alone. "You've earned it." Outside, the December night embraced me with bitter cold. I handed my ticket to the valet and waited for my car, breathing in the sharp, clean air, feeling truly awake for the first time in months. What I'd done was petty, perhaps even cruel. Certainly not the action of a better man. But I was done being better. I was done turning the other cheek. I was done watching silently as everything I'd built was taken from me. Sometimes justice isn't about being right. It's about being seen. The aftermath was everything I'd anticipated and more. Craig's investors, alarmed by the public revelations about his judgment and ethics, began asking difficult questions. Several pulled their funding. City officials, always sensitive to scandal, distanced themselves from his projects. Permits that had been fast-tracked suddenly encountered administrative delays. Lauren, meanwhile, discovered that being known as the architect's wife who stole and cheated made her less appealing on the Chicago social circuit. Her PR firm, concerned about their own reputation, placed her on administrative leave. A polite version of firing that fooled no one. I heard about these developments secondhand through mutual acquaintances and business contacts. I made no effort to follow Lauren's downfall directly. I had my own life to rebuild. January brought new projects, new challenges at work. I hired additional staff, expanded into sustainable design. Something I'd always been passionate about but had never fully pursued. At Lauren's urging, I'd focused on more lucrative contracts instead. Now, freed from her influence, I could build the firm I truly wanted. I sold our house, too many memories, too much space for one person, and bought a loft in a converted warehouse near the river. Industrial, minimalist, nothing like the traditional luxury Lauren had preferred. I furnished it sparsely, with pieces chosen for comfort and function rather than status. Life developed new rhythms. Work during the week, long runs along the lakefront on weekends, occasional dates, nothing serious, dinners with friends who'd stood by me through the divorce. I wasn't happy exactly, but I was moving forward. Until the night my phone rang at 11:37 p.m., an unknown number flashing on the screen. "Hello," I answered cautiously. "Evan," Lauren's voice thick with what might have been tears or alcohol or both. "I need to talk to you." I nearly hung up, should have hung up. Instead I asked, "About what?" "Everything," she said. "It's all falling apart. Craig's investors are pulling out. His company is under investigation. He blames me. Says I've ruined him." That sounds like a conversation you should be having with him, not me. "He's gone," she said, and now I could definitely hear the slur in her words. "Took a business trip to London. Without me. Left me here to deal with the mess. Our assets are frozen. I can't access anything. Again, not my problem. Please," she whispered, "I have nowhere else to go. No one else to call. Everyone's abandoned me." The rational part of my brain warned me to end the call. This was exactly the kind of drama I'd worked so hard to excise from my life. But some deeper, more primitive part responded to the desperation in her voice. "What do you want from me, Lauren? Can we meet? Just to talk. Please. I shouldn't have agreed. Every instinct screamed against it. But curiosity, or perhaps some lingering need for closure, won out. Tomorrow noon, there's a cafe on Wabash called Intelligentsia. Public place, 30 minutes max. Thank you, she breathed. Thank you, Evan. I ended the call and sat in the darkness of my new home, wondering what the hell I was doing. The cafe was busy with the lunch crowd when I arrived, exactly at noon. I chose a table with clear sight lines to both entrances, ordered a black coffee, and waited. Lauren appeared at 12:17, looking like a ghost of her former self. Her hair, once perfectly maintained, hung limply around her face. Her clothes, while still expensive, seemed to hang on her frame as if she'd lost significant weight. The makeup couldn't hide the shadows under her eyes or the new lines around her mouth. She spotted me and made her way over, ignoring the curious glances from other patrons. Once, Lauren Mitchell had commanded attention through sheer force of confidence and style. Now she seemed to shrink from it. Thank you for meeting me, she said, taking the seat across from me. 17 minutes, I replied, checking my watch. You have 13 left. She flinched but nodded. I deserve that. I deserve all of it. A server approached. Lauren ordered a latte with trembling hands. You said you wanted to talk, I prompted when the server left. So talk. She took a deep breath. First, I want to say I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, doesn't change what happened, but I am. What I did to you was unforgivable. Is that why you called? To apologize? Partly, she admitted, but also because I'm in trouble, Evan. Serious trouble. Financial trouble, you mean? Yes, but it's more than that. She leaned forward, lowering her voice. Craig wasn't just cheating with me. He was using me, using my connections through the PR firm to get inside information on development projects, property acquisitions, things that would benefit his company. I raised an eyebrow. And you're telling me this why? Because the SEC is investigating him now. They've questioned me twice already. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was doing anything illegal. But I introduced him to people, shared things I heard at work. And now you're worried about being implicated, I finished for her. She nodded miserably. My lawyer says I could face charges as an accessory, and I have no money for legal fees. Everything I had was tied up with Craig, and it's all frozen now. The server returned with Lauren's latte. She wrapped her hands around the mug but didn't drink. What exactly do you want from me, Lauren? Money, a character reference. Forgiveness. I don't know, she whispered, a tear sliding down her cheek. Maybe just someone who knew me before all this. Someone who remembers when I wasn't. This. Despite everything, I felt a twinge of something. Not sympathy exactly, but recognition. The woman before me was facing the consequences of her actions, just as I had faced the consequences of my blindness. I can't help you, I said finally. Not with money, not with the investigation. That part of our lives is over. More tears now, streaming silently down her face. I know. I don't know what to do. Everything's gone. My job, my reputation, my future, Craig, all gone. That's what happens when you build on sand, I said, standing and placing money on the table for my coffee. Something I learned the hard way thanks to you. Lauren looked up, her eyes red-rimmed and desperate. Do you hate me? The question stopped me. Did I hate her? The woman who had betrayed me, stolen from me, lied to me for months? The woman I had once loved enough to promise forever to? No, I said truthfully. I don't hate you, Lauren. I don't feel anything for you at all anymore. And that's the best thing you ever gave me. I walked away then, leaving her sobbing quietly at the table. Outside, the winter sun cast weak light over the city, glinting off snow-covered buildings. I breathed deeply, feeling an unexpected lightness in my chest. Our story wasn't over, not yet, but I was no longer a prisoner to its narrative. 2 days later, I received a call from Jason Brooks. Thought you should know, he said without preamble. Lauren Mitchell tried to contact Craig Doyle in London yesterday. Repeatedly. He's blocked her number, apparently. She's been drinking heavily, according to the doorman at her apartment building. Why are you telling me this? I asked, unsure why Brooks was still monitoring Lauren's activities. Professional habit, he replied. I keep tabs on cases that might come back around. Also, she showed up at your office building this morning. Security didn't let her up, but she waited outside for almost 2 hours before leaving. The news disturbed me more than I wanted to admit. Did she seem stable? Hard to say, Brooks said, but in my experience, desperate people rarely make rational choices. After hanging up, I tried to focus on the building plans spread across my desk, a new community center in an underserved neighborhood, the kind of project I'd always wanted to pursue but had delayed, choosing more profitable corporate work instead. Now it was my priority, my attempt to build something meaningful from the wreckage of the past year. But Lauren's face kept intruding on my thoughts. The devastation in her eyes at the cafe, the desperation in her voice on the phone. Was I responsible for what she might do now? Had my actions, the gala exposure, the calculated dismantling of her new life, pushed her towards some irreversible decision? Not my problem, I told myself. Not my responsibility. But the thought rang hollow even as it formed. By evening, I found myself walking into the lobby of Lauren's new apartment building, a far cry from our lakefront home, but still respectable. The doorman recognized me from Brooks' description. Mr. Mitchell, he said with a nod. Ms. Mitchell isn't in. Left about an hour ago. Did she say where she was going? No, sir, but she seemed upset. Been that way for days, to be honest. I thanked him and stepped back onto the street, unsure what to do next. Where would Lauren go in this state? To a friend's. Most had abandoned her after the scandal. To a bar? Possibly, but which one? Chicago had thousands. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, likely Lauren using a different phone since I'd blocked her number. I need to see you. Please, I'm outside your office. It was nearly 6:30 p.m. The office would be largely empty, just the security guard at the front desk. I could ignore the message, go home, continue with my carefully reconstructed life. Instead, I found myself hailing a cab to my office building in the Loop. The rain had started by the time I arrived, a cold January downpour that turned the sidewalks slick with ice. I paid the driver and stepped out, scanning the area for Lauren. There she was, huddled under the minimal shelter of the building's entrance overhang, soaking wet despite it. She wore no coat, just a thin sweater, her arms wrapped around herself against the cold. Her hair hung in wet ropes around her face, makeup streaked from rain or tears or both. She didn't see me approaching, her gaze fixed on the building's entrance, as if willing it to open and admit her. Lauren, I called over the rain, still several yards away. What are you doing here? She turned, her expression shifting from despair to desperate hope as she recognized me. Evan, you came. She stepped toward me, unsteady on her feet. I didn't think you would. Why are you here? I repeated, not moving closer. What do you want? To explain, she said, her voice breaking. To make you understand what you've done. What we've both done. We've said everything that needs to be said, I replied. There's nothing left, Lauren. There's so much left, she cried, taking another stumbling step toward me. So much you don't know. About me, about Craig, about why I did what I did. It doesn't matter anymore. It does, she insisted, her voice rising. You think you know everything, think you have it all figured out. Perfect Evan with his perfect revenge. But you have no idea what I've been through, what I'm still going through. She was shouting now, drawing curious glances from passers-by despite the rain. Her emotional state was clearly deteriorating, her body trembling with cold or anger or both. Lauren, you need to go home, I said firmly. You're not well. Home. She laughed, the sound brittle and sharp. I don't have a home anymore. I don't have anything. You made sure of that. You made your choices, I reminded her. I just ensured you face the consequences. Consequences? She was moving toward me again, her steps uneven. Is that what you call destroying someone's life? Is that what you call... She broke off suddenly, her attention caught by something behind me. Her eyes widened, her body tensing. Is that him? She demanded, pointing past me. Is that Craig? I turned involuntarily, following her gaze. There was no one there that resembled Craig, just ordinary commuters hurrying through the rain. When I looked back, Lauren was already in motion, rushing past me toward the street, her focus fixed on someone or something I couldn't see. "Lauren, wait!" I called, suddenly alarmed by her erratic behavior. "There's no one there." But she was beyond hearing, beyond reason. She ran into the street, oblivious to the traffic, the rain, everything except the phantom she was chasing. The taxi appeared from around the corner, moving faster than it should have on the wet street. The driver saw Lauren too late, brakes squealing against the slick pavement. I watched in horrified slow motion. Lauren turning at the sound, the recognition dawning on her face, her body frozen in the headlights. The impact was sickening, throwing her body against the taxi's windshield before she crumpled to the pavement. Someone screamed, a witness perhaps, or the driver as he leapt from the car. I remained frozen on the sidewalk, unable to move, to think, to process what I'd just witnessed. Lauren lay motionless in the street, rain washing over her broken form, a dark stain spreading beneath her. People rushed to help, passers-by, the taxi driver, someone calling for an ambulance. They knelt beside her, checking for signs of life, attempting first aid. Their voices seemed distant, underwater. I should go to her. I should help. I should do something. But I couldn't move, couldn't bring myself to approach the woman I'd once loved, now shattered on the pavement. The woman whose destruction I'd orchestrated so carefully, so completely. Had this been my goal all along? Not just to punish Lauren, but to break her, to watch as everything she valued was stripped away, piece by piece, until nothing remained but the desperate, delusional woman who'd run into traffic chasing ghosts. A paramedic touched my arm, asking if I knew the victim. I nodded mutely, supplying Lauren's name, her age, watching as they loaded her still form into the ambulance. No one asked me to accompany her. No one recognized me as the husband, ex-husband, who should be distraught, demanding updates, insisting on riding along. I was just another witness to tragedy, anonymous, separate, alone. As the ambulance pulled away, sirens wailing, I turned and walked in the opposite direction. Rain soaked through my clothes, but I barely felt it. My mind was empty, my emotions shut down, my body operating on autopilot. I'd won. I'd destroyed Lauren just as she destroyed me, taken everything from her, reputation, security, future, even perhaps her life. Victory had never tasted so bitter.